What's up, everybody, and welcome to a special joint practice edition of the Chicago Football Show. I'm Scott Bair alongside Carmen Vitali, and Bills team reporter is joining us. Maddy Glab is also here to break down everything that just happened between the joint practice, or at the joint practice between the Bills and the Bears. So let's get right to the action here. Maddy, you were on the field, up close and personal, watching this practice. What were your overall takeaways from this joint session?
One of my biggest overall takeaways on the Bills side of things is this offseason, our coaching staff and our scouting department put a lot into our defensive line. We added 3 free agents. On our defensive line, we also drafted 3 rookies, and it was because our defensive line ranked 18th last year in terms of getting after the quarterback, in terms of sack numbers. Not good enough. We all saw what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl, and a lot of teams are trying to replicate that. So they threw a lot of paint at the wall in terms of trying to see what can we do with the defensive line here. And we saw some rookies, we saw some of the free agents, new players get after the quarterbacks today. So I was really proud to see the growth that our defensive line has taken as a unit, not just the new guys, but you're seeing, because of the new players that are in here, guys like Greg Rousseau and Ed Oliver, veterans on our defensive line, big names, are also, leveling up their play.
You mentioned to me that joint practices are not a given when it comes to the Bills every year. Under Sean McDermott, you've done them 3 times.
Yes.
So what stood out to you from that regard of why they wanted to do this joint practice with the Bears? They come all the way to Chicago. It's a physical practice, very chippy, guys. What was it, do you think, that Sean McDermott was wanting to get out of this?
I think you start with why you do it in the first place, and you guys already had joint practices against the Dolphins, and I think for both teams, it's a good measuring stick. Where are we at in the second week of the preseason, one final week after this game on Sunday, and then you have to figure out who are the 53 that are going to carry us through the big part of the season. So that's why Sean McDermott, I'm sure Ben Johnson wanted to do a joint practice. And I think kind of laying the foundation of doing a joint practice against a team like this, you have to have respect for each other, right? You can't go out there and have jawing plays every single play. Yes, it got chippy, but it got chippy in structure, and nobody, thankfully, got hurt from any of the fights that happened. And I think some of that respect started as early as the draft. I was talking to one of our scouts and asking him, does this kind of start when you guys are doing trades with each other in the draft? You know this is a good scouting department, coaching staff to work with. Maybe we extend it onto the practice field and joint practices.
Before practice, Ben Johnson said that this was, you talk about measuring sticks, that this is about the highest one because the Bears were going up against a Super Bowl contender. Is that the expectation going into this season? I know that's a lofty goal, but when you're so steadily advancing through the AFC playoffs, is that what Buffalo is looking at right now?
Yes, 100%. That is their biggest goal. That is what they talk about all the time in team meetings. They're very hard on themselves when it doesn't get to that type of season. I mean, last year they lost a game before when they could have made it to the Super Bowl. So it's a team that's been scratching, clawing, biting to get to the Super Bowl. They've missed out on some facets of the game. Defensive line was an area that they wanted to be better at. Injuries were also an issue at the end of the season, but when you have an MVP quarterback like Josh Allen, we hear our staff and our players say all the time, anything is possible with 17 at the helm, and that's what this entire team believes going into this season. He's in his 8th year. You add some pieces on the offense and free agency, you draft a bunch of defensive players, and they feel really good about where the roster's at right now.
It was interesting because it just looked easy for Josh Allen out there. Like, I'm looking over at the field on one field where Josh Allen is, and Caleb Williams, who the offense had a couple of starts and stops today. There was a couple of procedural penalties, which I'm sure Ben Johnson will be talking to the staff about and the players about. But it's interesting because we've seen Ben Johnson be very intense, and Sean McDermott is another guy that's a little intense, shall we say. Now that you've seen both of these coaches on the field, do you see any similarities between them two?
I see a lot of similarities between the two of them. I actually went back last night and watched Ben Johnson's introductory press conference just because I wanted to hear what he was saying about how you're going to build a team. And I think there are so many similarities. So I want to tell Bears fans, I'm from the future. If you build it the right way, it's going to be great. Good things are going to happen. You have your quarterback. You've got some great pieces on offense, some great pieces on defense. It's just about about putting it together. And some of the biggest similarities that I've seen between the two of them, and just some of the sticking points of who Sean McDermott is as a head coach. Ben Johnson said things like, we want to do it the right way. Sean McDermott always says that. I want to lean on guys around me. I want to have veteran coaches in here. Sean McDermott had Leslie Frazier, an older defensive coordinator, throughout the first few years of his head coaching career. So I think what Ben Johnson is trying to put in place, the boulders are there. It's about trying to figure out how to put it all together and have it work seamlessly. You got a young quarterback, so Johnson also said we're going to build an offense around him. I think those are the right things that you want to hear out of a head coach. Yes, you guys haven't taken the field yet, but I'm hearing the right things in terms of getting off on the right foot.
So this is the first part of a kind of Bears and Bills two-step, because we have Sunday's preseason game coming up at Soldier Field. Has Sean given any indication about whether starters are going to play? Any sort of preview that he's announced to the press to this point?
I can't give you any good nuggets on that yet. What we heard from McDermott was, I need to see where we're at in terms of injuries after this practice and assess who do I need to play, who do I feel good about. He also said it's going to be a case-by-case basis in terms of players and position groups. There are some younger players, he said, who, yes, I probably have seen a good amount out of in practices and in this practice specifically, but I need to see more on Sundays, during Sunday's preseason game. In terms of Josh Allen playing at quarterback, we didn't get an answer on that. He said that Allen has had a great preseason thus far. He loves where he's at in the process. What's left is just making sure he's on good terms with his new wide receivers. So this could be the year where we don't even see Josh Allen play at all in the preseason.
Maybe that's a benefit of being MVP of the league and getting to kind of take it easy as you ramp up and up that rest level. But when you're looking then for, what are you looking for then in this game? If it's not Josh Allen taking the helm, what about the guys at kind of at the bottom of the roster that are vying for jobs? Where do you see kind of the most movement there?
Yeah, quarterback 2 is a sneaky spot. You have Mitchell Trubisky, who Bears fans know very well,
They
and you
certainly
have
do.
Mike White, who are battling out for that QB2 spot. Both offer different things. Both have had up and down days at training camp practices. Both have had some really good stretches as well. So that's kind of where my eyes go first, is that backup quarterback spot. And then kind of just filling in your gaps of who is going to be the important depth on this roster. You have some wide receivers who are fighting for spots right now. You have some younger players who are UDFAs who are having good camps right now. So I'm interested to kind of see quarterback 2s and then your depth, who's going to make up a good part of the roster.
Carmen and I have been to so many training camp practices. They all kind of like run together at some point. I guess I'm just curious, for someone who is really seeing Caleb Williams from the field for the first time, did you have any initial impressions about arm talent or mobility, or did you have any takeaways from what you saw there?
Caleb Williams, one of the first things I think about with him as a quarterback is your arm talent, and I saw that on different occasions during practice today. You also see the mobility a little bit in the pocket. I know he took a lot of sacks last year, and I think one of the things going from your rookie season to your second season is learning how to have the right pocket presence, learning when to stay in the pocket and learning when to get out of the pocket. And with some new offensive line pieces that the Bears have, hopefully that will help Williams feel a lot safer in the pocket of, yes, I can step up here and make this throw, or no, I'm going to roll to my right and find a guy near the sideline.
On the other field too, you saw Josh Allen got intercepted, and a couple of times the one was taken back thanks to a flag, but it was pretty physical over there. It was pretty chippy. What did you see from the Bears defense then going against the ones?
Yeah, one thing that I had my eye on was just Josh Allen and Keon Coleman's connection. That's a wide receiver who's in his second year with the Bills, and just trying to figure out where is he at in his process, in his progress. He's somebody who finished his rookie season and thought this was trash. He actually said that, which is incredible. So he's been working really hard this offseason, gained a lot of muscle mass, and you can see that out on the field. But just in terms of him kind of beating up some of the DBs and some of the DBs kind of beating up him, there were some plays where Keon Coleman had 2 touchdowns, but there was another play where a DB got in his way. So the secondary for the Bears is pretty stacked this year. Tummaine Edmonds had that interception that got called back. He's a former Buffalo Bill. So, I want to see the Bills do good, but to see a guy like Tummaine Edmonds kind of get in there, I'm like, Go Trey. Happy for you.
Yeah, well, let's stick on that topic because he's going to play a huge role in that interior linebacker spot, and he's been with the Bears for a couple of seasons now. Do you have any recollections about a younger version of Tummaine Edmonds?
Tummaine Edmonds is a physical specimen. I mean, he has the perfect makeup of a football player, and to stick somebody like that in the middle of the football field, I think is something that the Bills really appreciated during his time. When he was kind of in his last couple seasons with the Bills, it was really about how can you become a leader in this defense. So I'm sure now with the Bears, he's done a great job of taking the right step forward to become a leader of the team and of the defense. But he's somebody who he would get into places that you shouldn't get into just because of his arm length and because of his explosivity in the middle of the field.
That's absolutely something the Bears are going to be looking for. Dennis Allen, a very aggressive kind of defense, very aggressive scheme. We've seen a lot of that throughout camp so far, just from the Bears side. And, you know, we had the Miami Dolphins in here last week. You saw how kind of physical the team stepped up. Did you see... Was there a different level to the Bills today going against an opponent that's not familiar at all?
I did see the physicality. McDermott said early in his press conference, we need to be physical out there today. And not like saying, please fight with these players, but, you know, take it up a notch. This is the middle of the preseason. We are getting closer to roster cuts. We need to figure out who you are on this team, what your identity is, and how you're going to fit on this roster. So I saw that physicality during team periods out of our defensive line. I saw it out of some of our wide receivers and running backs. I think our offensive line did a good job on certain plays. Your defensive line was also blowing up some plays. I saw 2 batted passes in team periods on Josh Allen. So good on you guys for that. I was like, wow, Josh doesn't get many passes batted
he's
because
huge.
he gets the ball out so fast and he's so good at layering his throws and he's huge. But I did see that physicality, that special teams period, I think was just hilarious for everybody to watch because you have your starters on the sideline who are egging on your special teamers and you know there's something that's going to happen, and it did.
So last year at this time, the Bears had Hard Knocks in camp.
Yep.
For somebody who works for the team and is inside of the building, what's the Hard Knocks experience? Do you notice that they're there? Are you watching the show? Kind of like, what's that dynamic
I
like?
looked over at one of the Hard Knocks people today as we got into the field house at the Bears facility, and I was like, oh, welcome. And he was like, well, we were here last year. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of home for you guys. So.
Very familiar.
But in terms of noticing them, they've done a great job of kind of blending in. They wear the team colors, so they kind of look like they're a part of the group. They travel in pods. You've got your videographer, you've got your audio person, you've got your person who's helping hold cables and cards and all that stuff. But they've been a great group to work with. We did a big event that we premiered the first episode at one of the local theaters near downtown. So I think it's been
Which
awesome.
You got to MC, by
I
the
got
way.
to MC it, which was very cool. But it's been good to have them on. And in terms of what the players and coaching staff thinks of it, they've been very open and honest, and we're not trying to hide anything. We believe we have a championship culture in here, and we want to show that to everybody.
See, that's such an interesting perspective from the inside, and then seeing it broadcast to the public. Fun stuff and great stuff from Bills team reporter Maddy Glab. Thank you so much.
Chicago native.
And Chicago
Maddy Glab.
native.
It's awesome to be back.
Yeah.
I fangirled a little bit being in the field house and seeing the Walter Payton shrine. I was like, this is crazy.
Awesome. Lots of great stuff. And one more Bills-Bears matchup coming up on Sunday, preseason game number 2 at Soldier Field. Welcome back, everybody, to the Chicago Football Show. And it's Scott and Carmen here now. We're going to break down this Bills-Bears joint practice and kind of preview the preseason game coming up. But before we get there, because we know it's fantasy football draft season.
It is fantasy football draft. SZN.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You should consider Renegade Fantasy is the only app that lets you substitute players in real time, stop the clock, and participate in second season drafts just like a real coach. So join the Tom Waddle League on the Renegade Fantasy Football app, win your season, and score $5,000 in cash. Yeah, that's $5,000. Are you ready to take your fantasy team to the next level? That means no more losing Sundays, seasons, or wasted lineups. Go to tomwaddle.renegadefantasy.com and join today.
$5,000 is $5,000.
But, well, I mean, you could join after we do this joint practice breakdown here, because there was a lot of there were a lot of interesting moments on the offensive side. For as much as we complain about them, and they still don't have the pre-snap procedure thing locked.
Right, no.
It was better, but it was still problematic.
I was going to say it was productive, but problematic. How's that? Mm-hmm. There were some procedural penalties still today, but they weren't on Caleb. Mm-hmm. Some of the offensive line, a couple false starts. And that kind of in those team periods, when everybody's paying attention and it's the ones on the ones that, tempers kind of flare in that way. There was some chippiness to today's practice. It was very physical out there from both sides of the ball on both teams.
I thought the Bills were more prepared for that level of intensity than the
Dolphins. It was a stark contrast from what we saw against the Dolphins, where it was really lopsided. The Bears brought an intensity that the Dolphins did not. That was not the case today. I even tweeted it out where I was like, these teams are matching each other's energy pretty well, and they understand that they need to be physical out there while being responsible. So there was some chippiness, there were some scuffles, some kerfuffles, some whatever you want to call them, and they honestly, outside of the offense, they happen more in the special teams periods. These were the most entertaining special teams periods I've been a part of in a very long time. It was really fun to watch that. But as far as the offense goes, it was more productive from the sense that Caleb Williams was hitting a lot more passes, whether that was to Rome Odunze or Olamide Zaccheaus. Olamide Zaccheaus has had a phenomenal camp. Honestly,
maybe the best camp of anybody on the offensive side.
Since he came on our show.
I think so.
I think that was a catalyst.
It's good karma.
It was the way to bring in Taylor Swift into it. But I do think that Rome Odunze has also had a phenomenal camp, and he is absolutely becoming that guy for Caleb Williams. There was one catch where he went up with both hands. The throw was even a little bit behind him, and he went up with both hands, snatched it out of the air with the DB right on his back. And those are the kinds of plays, those are the kinds of reps that do build that trust, that build that rapport between these two. And those two are tied together through their contracts, both being first-round picks this year or 2 years ago. It ties them together for the foreseeable future. So this is the duo that you want to stress. This is the duo that you want to see being productive. And that's what we saw today.
And if you go back to, I talked to Rome at some point late in the year. I was tired of writing about all the losing and the fired coaches and stuff. So I just kind of went big. I went big picture with Rome, and he really talked about wanting to form a Montana Rice and Aikman Irvin type of relationship. Now, those are two of the best quarterback receiver duos ever.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the aspirations are in the right spot, because if you look at that, just through the length of the contract, they're probably going to spend 5 professional seasons together, possibly with extensions even longer than that. Mm-hmm. And that's the goal. Now, last year, he was almost a victim to the fact that there were too many good receivers, so his target share wasn't super high. And Caleb really developed a strong relationship and rapport with Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
But I do think that heading into year 2, he's bigger, and just exactly what you were talking about, his ability to make acrobatic catches in traffic has been really impressive.
It really has. And there was also a little bit of the run game getting going. Now, they're not tackling to the ground. There weren't live periods today against the Bills, though, again, it was very physical. But you did see a couple good runs from DeAndre Swift. Kyle Monungai was getting some of the first-team reps in there. We saw kind of a rotation at a couple of positions on offense, and we're going to get to that left tackle competition. That's now a 4-man competition, according to Ben Johnson. But other than that, I mean, I think that the offense, again, much more productive. There was still some procedural issues. I was actually kind of surprised to not see Ben Johnson lose his head after those back-to-back false starts. There was a point where the Buffalo defense actually, it was a sack, and there wasn't any contact on the sack of Caleb Williams, but they did shove Caleb, and it was in a hurry-up period.
Yeah, that was interesting.
It was interesting, and Caleb was the one that kind of took charge there and said, hey, let's get lined up. If this is a real scenario, we're going to be out of time. And his offensive line listened to him. But I was so torn in this, Scott.
Right.
I was like, that's your quarterback. Go protect him. Go do something. But then I was like, you know what? it was definitely smarter to line back up and to get going. Because again, if it was a real scenario, the clock would have ran out on them had they started to, defend Caleb Williams' honor. So it was nice to see Caleb kind of take that leadership position. And as torn as I was, because I do choose pettiness and violence every time. Every time. I appreciated the fact that they were playing smart football, which is something that Ben Johnson has stressed. Smart, clean football. And to see that against another opponent in joint practices that were chippy, that were physical, it was a really encouraging sign.
Yeah, and from the defensive side of it, against the Miami Dolphins last week in their joint practice, the defense just took Miami's lunch money.
Oh, yeah.
It was not
close.
It was not the case this time.
No.
This was a lot more even, which is what happens when you have a
an
reigning
MVP quarterback
and Josh Allen and some really interesting skill players.
Go figure.
But there were moments where it was early, I believe, in a 7-on-7 period where 3 consecutive passes were 2 pass breakups by Jaquan Brisker and then an interception that Kevin Bayard literally wrestled away from the guy he was covering. The name escapes me now. But in those sequences, they were still able to take the ball away. There was another one by Tummaine Edmonds, which we talked about earlier.
Which I believe was tipped by Jaquan Brisker. And Tummaine was the one that ended up coming down with it.
Yeah, and I think that was called off by a penalty. But it's another example of getting your hands on the ball.
Yeah.
Gravon Dexter had 2 batted passes at the line, and Ruben Hippolyte had a pick. It was a terribly thrown ball. It was right to him. But you have to take advantage of those moments.
Absolutely.
And I think that the Bears continue to find ways to aggressively take the ball away. And again, I think it's probably fair to wonder if the pass rush wasn't quite as good as it had been because the Bills are a little bit better. So those are kind of my takeaways, is that this secondary, it might be the team strength right now because of some of the issues at left tackle and some of these pre-snap things. That right now, those defensive backs are getting after it. It's a really good group.
The defensive backs and the inside linebackers. I mean, that can't be overlooked that Tummaine Edmonds has made plays not only against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, but he was making plays against the Miami Dolphins. So every time a new opponent comes in here that maybe they're not as familiar with, Tummaine Edmonds is making plays, and he has that rangy sideline to sideline ability. He's very long. He embodies everything that Dennis Allen wants in an inside backer. And then you get, like you said, the secondary that is able to create turnovers, which will then in turn give the offense more chances as they go about learning this system, getting comfortable in this system. More chances is never going to be a bad thing. And I think the biggest question mark is still how much can they pressure the quarterback. But when you're talking about batted passes at the line, while they're not sacks, that's also really encouraging. When I saw that, we heard it from Maddy. Josh Allen doesn't get passes batted at the line.
Right.
He knows exactly where he's supposed to throw things. He can layer his throws. He's a big dude. He can throw over top of anybody. So the fact that you're batting down passes from Josh Allen, who again is also very entrenched in his offense, very entrenched with a lot of his skill players. He does have some new guys that he is getting used to, but that is really encouraging to me because that stops the play in its tracks. Even if it's not a turnover or a takeaway, it does get the job done if you're doing that on third down or whatever. You're moving, you're limiting your opponent, you're limiting the scoring opportunities, and that's what you want to see.
Not much time left in the show, but we have to hit this left tackle situation.
Situation is a good.
Addressed it yet again.
Yeah.
Early on Friday morning. What did you take away from what he had to say? Because now, as you pointed out, 4-man competition, now including Theo Benedict.
Listen, if there's one thing about Ben Johnson, he's going to give everybody a chance.
Yeah.
But that being said, how many times did Ben say this morning, I need someone to go out and take it. Yep. I need someone to tell me that this is their job. And so far, that has not happened. And that's a little concerning because you want this offensive line to gel in their ramp up to the regular season. You don't want the first time these guys are playing any meaningful snaps together to come in week 1. So they have to make a decision soon. Ben Johnson did say that this practice and this game coming up on Sunday are going to go a long way in determining who the starting left tackle will be.
Yeah, and then just as we kind of move forward here, quick thought on the starters playing in week 2 against the Buffalo Bills.
I think it's great to get some live reps. Again, that left tackle competition really going to be decided, I think, in this coming week, and that's going to go a long way. So I'm excited for that, the starters to get some of those reps in against a good defense, whether or not the starters play. This is a Buffalo Bills team that, again, has Super Bowl aspirations this year, and that experience can't be overlooked.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be so interesting to see how that offense especially operates.
You need the procedural stuff.
And that's the key, because if that stuff is clean with the throws we know that Caleb Williams can make, the throws, frankly, we saw him make a few times on Friday and during the course of the week, he can throw the ball well. And if he can operate within that rhythm and they can get the pre-snap stuff kind of figured out, I think it could really see an ascent for the offense. Big test, in my opinion, on Sunday, and definitely their only time they're going to play in the preseason. They're not going to play on a short week against Kansas City.
Probably not.
So that's going to do it for Carmen and I here on a special joint practice edition of the Chicago Football Show. You can get this, you know how. Anywhere that you can find your podcast, rate, review, and subscribe. Also, just download the Watch Marquee app. That's the easiest way to get it on your phone wherever you are, audio and video. Thank you so much, as always, and we will be back with you again with another show on Tuesday.